Princess Zareth stood in the great war room of the Imperial fleet. The blue light from her crystal skin reflected off the metal walls. Around her, the greatest military minds of the Valkyrian Empire argued like children. We must destroy every human world. General Kexivor slammed his fist on the table.
They are insects.
How dare they resist us for 3 years? The humans have cost us 12 fleets, Admiral Mordaunt said quietly. 12 fleets, General. We have never lost so much to any species. Zareth watched the red dots on the star map. Each dot was a human world still fighting. 3 years ago there had been hundreds. Now only 50 remained. But those 50 burned like angry stars refusing to die. They should have surrendered after we took Earth's moon. General Kexivor continued. What kind of species keeps fighting after losing their home system? A dangerous one, Zareth said. Everyone turned to look at her. We are bleeding ships, soldiers, and resources. At this rate, the war will bankrupt the Empire. Princess, General Kexivor said with false respect, we cannot show weakness to these humans. If we negotiate, every species in the galaxy will think they can resist us. Zareth walked to the star map. She touched one of the red dots with her finger. I am not talking about negotiation. I am talking about a political marriage. The room fell silent. Then General Kexivor laughed. Marriage? To a human? Princess, that is madness, is it? Zareth turned to face them all. We marry their leader. We claim victory through diplomacy. The galaxy sees us as merciful rulers who can end wars without destroying everything. Then after a few months, the human dies in an accident. We absorb their remaining worlds. Admiral Morden leaned forward. It could work. The humans value their leaders highly. If one of them agrees to marriage, their people might accept peace. And which human would be foolish enough to marry into the Empire? General Kexivor asked. Zareth smiled coldly. We will find out. Far across the galaxy, Admiral Marcus Chen read the marriage proposal for the 10th time. His officers sat around the table in the hidden base on Kepler Station. Their faces showed the same shock he felt. They want to marry you? Captain Torres asked. Why you specifically? Marcus looked at the list of terms. Because I command the 7th Fleet, what's left of it. And because my name is on every target list they have. The war had taken everything from him. His wife and daughter died when the Valkyrians glassed New Shanghai. His brother fell defending the Mars colonies. Now he led 3 damaged ships and 200 exhausted soldiers. It's a trap, Commander Walsh said. They'll kill you the moment you step on their ship. Maybe. Marcus set down the message. But look at what they're offering. Ceasefire across all fronts. Humanitarian aid to our refugee worlds. Return of prisoners, Marcus, Captain Torres said softly. You can't seriously be considering this. He was. The human fleet was broken. Earth's children lived in underground shelters, eating recycled protein and dreaming of sunlight. Every day more worlds went dark. I've lost everything to this war, Marcus said. If my death can save what's left of humanity, then it's worth it. And if it's not a trap? Commander Walsh asked. If they really want peace? Marcus had studied Valkyrian culture for 3 years. He knew their honor codes, their politics, their way of thinking. They don't want peace. They want victory without cost. But sometimes what you want and what you get are different things. The wedding took place on Haven's Rest, a neutral trading station. Zareth arrived with a fleet of 50 ships. Marcus came with 2. The difference in power was clear to everyone watching. Zareth expected to meet a broken man, someone desperate enough to throw his life away for a few months of peace. When Marcus walked into the docking bay, she realized her mistake. He was tall for a human with dark hair and scars on his hands. His uniform was old but clean. When he looked at her, she saw eyes like steel. This was not a man ready to die. This was a predator studying new territory. Princess Zareth, Marcus said, bowing in the Valkyrian way. His pronunciation was perfect. Thank you for this opportunity. Admiral Chen, she replied in English. Her accent was thick but understandable. I hope this marriage will bring peace to both our peoples. The ceremony mixed human and Valkyrian traditions. They spoke vows in both languages. When Marcus placed the human ring on her finger, his hand was steady. When she gave him the Valkyrian bond crystal, he accepted it without fear. During the feast that followed, Zareth watched Marcus carefully. He spoke politely with her generals. He asked intelligent questions about Valkyrian art and history. He seemed genuinely interested in learning their culture. But she noticed other things, too. The way his eyes tracked the positions of guards. how he memorized the layout of rooms they passed through. When General HFY mentioned fleet formations, Marcus listened with the attention of a student learning from a master. "Your husband adapts quickly," Admiral Morden whispered to her during the dancing. "Too quickly," she whispered back. After the feast, they were shown to their quarters on the Imperial flagship Destiny's Edge. The rooms were large and well-appointed, with separate bedrooms connected by a common area. "I want to make our arrangement clear," Zareth said once they were alone. "This is a political marriage. We will appear together at official functions. We will sleep in separate rooms. You will not interfere with military matters," Marcus nodded. "I understand. May I ask about the guard rotations for this section?" The question surprised her. "Why?" "I'm military, Princess. I like to know who's protecting me and when." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Know your environment. Basic survival training." Something cold moved in Zareth's stomach. "The guards change every 6 hours. There are always 4 on duty in this corridor." "Thank you." Marcus walked to the window and looked out at the stars. "Which direction is Earth from here?" "Why does it matter?" "Your planet is under our protection now." Marcus turned back to her. "You're right. It doesn't matter anymore." But the way he said it made her skin crawl. That night, Zareth lay in her bed thinking about her new husband. Everything had gone according to plan. The human had accepted the marriage. His people had agreed to the ceasefire. The galaxy saw the Empire as merciful. So why did she feel like she had just made a terrible mistake? In the next room, Marcus sat at the desk provided for him. He wrote in a small notebook, documenting everything he had seen. Guard positions, shift changes, the layout of the ship, the behavior of officers. He thought about his daughter's last message before New Shanghai burned. "Daddy, when are you coming home?" He had failed to save her. He had failed to save his world. But failure taught lessons that victory never could. The Valkyrians thought they had won. They thought they had captured Earth's greatest military mind. They were wrong on both counts. Marcus closed the notebook and looked out at the stars. Somewhere in that darkness, human children still lived in fear. Somewhere out there, the last free colonies waited for rescue that might never come. But rescue came in many forms. Sometimes it came as a fleet of ships. Sometimes it came as a single man with nothing left to lose and everything left to learn. "Know your enemy," he whispered to the stars. "Then become what they fear most." The war was not over. It was just beginning. 3 months passed since the wedding. Princess Zareth found herself watching her husband more each day. Marcus played his role perfectly. At state dinners, he charmed foreign ambassadors. He learned Valkyrian poetry and could discuss their ancient battles with impressive knowledge. But small things worried her. Marcus befriended the maintenance workers who cleaned their quarters. He learned their names and asked about their families. When the night shift engineer Taknar hurt his back, Marcus showed him human stretching exercises that helped with the pain. "Why do you care about servants?" Zareth asked one evening. "They work hard," Marcus said simply. "Everyone deserves respect." She thought this was naive human thinking. She was wrong. Marcus spent hours in the Imperial Library reading military histories. He studied every great Valkyrian victory from the past 1,000 years. When she asked why, he said he wanted to understand her people better. "These battles are fascinating," he told her, showing a tactical display. "Your generals use patience like a weapon. They wait for the enemy to make mistakes, then strike at the perfect moment." Zareth felt proud. "Yes, we do not rush into battle like barbarians. We think first." "Smart," Marcus agreed. "Though I noticed something interesting in the Battle of Seven Suns. Your fleet formation has a weakness here." He pointed to a spot on the display. "If an enemy could get ships into this position, they could disrupt your entire command structure." She looked at the display. He was right. That weakness was fixed centuries ago. "Of course," Marcus smiled. "I was just curious about the old ways." But Zareth noticed he made similar observations about many battles. Always finding weaknesses, always asking how they were fixed. She began to wonder if his interest in military history was purely academic. Marcus also made helpful suggestions around the ship. The guard schedules could be more efficient, he pointed out. The maintenance teams would work better with improved shift rotations. The communication systems needed upgrades to handle traffic more smoothly. Each suggestion was logical. Each one was implemented. Each one gave Marcus access to more parts of the ship and more information about how it operated. Your husband is very thoughtful, Captain Veltar mentioned to Zarath. His ideas have improved efficiency by 12%. Yes, she agreed. Very thoughtful. Too thoughtful, she thought, but did not say. The first real sign of danger came during a terrorist attack on the Imperial Palace. They were visiting Zarath's homeworld when bomb-carrying fanatics breached the building's defenses. Zarath was in a meeting when alarms started screaming. Security forces rushed to protect her, but the attackers had planned well. They knew the palace layout and guard positions. 3 terrorists cornered Zarath in her private office. Their weapons were crude but deadly. The guards were still 2 minutes away. Marcus appeared in the doorway like a ghost. The first terrorist turned to shoot him. Marcus moved faster than Zarath thought humans could move. He grabbed a crystal paperweight from her desk and threw it with perfect accuracy. It struck the terrorist in the throat, dropping him instantly. The second terrorist raised his weapon. Marcus was already moving. He rolled behind a chair, came up with a metal sculpture and threw it at the man's gun hand. Bones broke. The weapon fell. The third terrorist had time to aim. Marcus didn't duck. Instead, he charged straight forward. The terrorist fired and missed because he didn't expect anyone to run directly at him. Marcus hit him like a falling tree and both men went down. When security arrived, they found 3 unconscious terrorists and Marcus checking Zarath for injuries. Are you hurt, Princess? No, she managed. Where did you learn to fight like that? Basic human military training, he said calmly. We all learn hand-to-hand combat. But Zarath had seen human soldiers fight before. They were brave but clumsy compared to Valkyrian warriors. What she had just witnessed was something else entirely. Marcus moved like liquid death, seeing 3 moves ahead of his enemies. This was not basic training. This was a predator who had killed many times before. That night she confronted him in their quarters. I want to know what you really are, she said. Marcus looked up from the book he was reading. I'm your husband, a human admiral. What else would I be? You're not just any admiral. You're the one who held the Sol system for 8 months against impossible odds. You're the one who destroyed the 4th Imperial Fleet at Proxima Station. Our generals study your battles. I was defending my home, Marcus said quietly. Yes, and now you're here, married to me, learning everything about our military, our ships, our weaknesses. She stepped closer. What's your real plan? For a moment, Marcus said nothing. Then he set down his book and looked at her with those steel eyes. You want to know my plan? His voice was still quiet, but something had changed. You married me to end the war. I'm going to end it. What does that mean? Marcus stood up slowly. For the first time since their wedding, he dropped the polite mask he always wore. What Zarath saw underneath made her blood freeze. It means you should have thought more carefully about who you were bringing into your home. You're threatening me. I'm promising you. Marcus walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Your people started this war because you thought humans were weak. You invaded our worlds, killed our children, destroyed our cities. You expected us to surrender. We offered you honorable terms and you offered us slavery. Marcus turned back to her. Do you know what the problem with your people is, Princess? You study war like it's an art form. You follow rules and traditions. You fight with honor. Zarath felt a chill run down her spine. And humans don't? Marcus smiled, and it was the most terrifying thing she had ever seen. Humans don't fight with honor. We fight to win. We adapt, we improvise. We become whatever we need to become to protect what we love. He walked toward her slowly. You married a human to end the war. But you didn't marry just any human. You married me. Who are you? She whispered. I'm the man who held Earth's last line of defense for 8 months. I'm the man who turned every defeat into a lesson. I'm the man who watched your fleets burn my homeworld and swore an oath on my daughter's grave. Marcus stopped in front of her. I'm the weapon your people created when you decided to make war on humanity. Zarath realized with growing horror that she had made a terrible mistake. She had thought she was marrying a defeated enemy. Instead, she had brought Earth's most dangerous predator into the heart of the Empire. What do you want? She asked. I want to go home, Marcus said simply. But first I need to make sure my people are safe. And that means ending this war completely. The ceasefire. The ceasefire is temporary. Your generals already plan to restart the fighting once I'm dead. I've heard them talking. Marcus walked back to his chair and picked up his book. So I'm going to give you the victory you wanted, Princess. Just not the way you planned. Zareth stared at him. You can't fight the entire empire alone. Marcus opened his book and began reading again. Watch me. Outside their window, the lights of the Imperial fleet stretched to the horizon. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers. The greatest military force in galactic history, and somewhere among them a single human planned their destruction. 6 months after the wedding, Marcus made his first real move. It started with a simple request to visit the ship's communications center. He wanted to send a message to the human colonies, he said, to reassure them about the peace process. Zareth approved the request. She even watched as he recorded his message. Marcus spoke calmly about hope for the future and the importance of the ceasefire. It seemed harmless. What she didn't know was that Marcus had learned to manipulate Valkyrian communication systems during his months of innocent questions. Hidden inside his peaceful message was something else entirely. Data packets that would automatically route to specific locations across the galaxy. The message reached more than just human colonies. It went to the hegemony worlds, the syndicate states, and the Free Colony Alliance, all the Empire's enemies. The data packets contained detailed information about Valkyrian fleet positions, supply routes, and defensive weaknesses. For 48 hours, nothing happened. Then the galaxy exploded into chaos. Hegemony strike forces hit 3 major Imperial supply depots simultaneously. The Syndicate launched raids on isolated frontier worlds that should have been impossible to find. Free Colony pirates attacked convoys using routes that were supposed to be secret. In the Imperial Command Center, alarms screamed constantly. General HFY studied the tactical displays with growing confusion. How are they coordinating these attacks? He demanded. The Hegemony and Syndicate hate each other. They would never work together. Unless someone gave them a reason to, Admiral Mordan said quietly. Zareth felt ice in her stomach. She looked at Marcus, who stood beside her watching the displays with calm interest. This is fascinating, he said. Your enemies seem much more organized than your intelligence report suggested. Marcus, she said carefully. May I speak with you privately? They walked to an empty briefing room. The moment the door closed, Zareth grabbed his arm. What did you do? I sent a message to the human colonies. You watched me record it yourself. Don't lie to me, she was shouting now. Those attacks are too coordinated. Someone told them where to strike. Marcus looked at her with those steel eyes. You're right. Someone did. You're confessing? I'm explaining. Marcus walked to the room's display screen and activated it. Star charts appeared showing the attacked locations. Your enemies have been fighting each other for decades. They never win because they never cooperate. All they needed was someone to show them how much they could accomplish working together. Zareth stared at the display. You started a galactic war. I ended one, Marcus corrected. The war between the Empire and humanity is over. Now you have bigger problems, but Marcus wasn't finished. Over the following weeks, Zareth watched her husband orchestrate something far more complex than coordinated enemy attacks. He was turning the Empire against itself. Marcus had spent months learning Valkyrian psychology. He understood their honor codes, their pride, their fierce loyalty to hierarchy. He also understood how to exploit those traits. Using his access to communication systems, Marcus began sending false messages between Imperial commanders. A report that Admiral Texnar was negotiating secretly with the hegemony. Evidence that General Morkel was planning to overthrow his superior. Communications suggesting that certain fleet commanders were keeping captured resources for themselves. None of it was true. All of it was believable. Valkyrians valued honor above life itself. When Admiral Texnar received accusations of treason, he demanded satisfaction from his accuser. When General Morkel learned of the betrayal charges, he challenged his superior to ritual combat. When fleet commanders discovered their loyalty was questioned, they began questioning everyone else's loyalty in return. The Third Fleet is refusing orders from Central Command, Captain Veltar reported during a staff meeting. Admiral Kexton says he won't take commands from traitors. Which traitors? General HFY demanded. He didn't specify, sir. Marcus watched from his position beside Zareth. His face showed concern and confusion, like everyone else. But Zareth caught the tiny smile that flickered across his lips for just a moment. That night, she confronted him again. You're destroying us from the inside. Your people are destroying themselves, Marcus said calmly. I'm just helping them see clearly, by lying to them. by showing them what they already believed. Marcus was reading another military history, this one about internal imperial conflicts. Your people are taught that honor is everything, that loyalty must be absolute, that any hint of betrayal deserves death. It's a beautiful philosophy, but it has a weakness. What weakness? It only works if everyone really is honorable and loyal. The moment someone starts asking questions, the whole system breaks down. Marcus turned a page. All I did was ask questions. Zarath felt sick. The Empire has existed for 3,000 years because it never faced an enemy who understood how it really worked. Your other enemies always tried to fight you with fleets and armies. I'm fighting you with psychology. My people will figure out what you're doing, will they? Marcus looked up from his book. Right now, half your generals think the other half are traitors. Your fleets are spread across the galaxy, either fighting external enemies or watching each other suspiciously. Your supply lines are breaking down because convoy commanders don't trust their escorts. He was right. The reports came in daily now. Fleet movements were being questioned. Supply deliveries were delayed by security inspections. Commanders were spending more time investigating each other than fighting actual enemies. You've started a civil war, Zarath whispered. I've revealed the civil war that was always waiting to happen, Marcus corrected. Your empire is built on rigid hierarchy and absolute obedience. But no hierarchy is perfect and no obedience is absolute. All that anger and resentment was already there. I just gave it a reason to come out. The breaking point came when Marcus revealed his masterpiece. 3 weeks after the attacks began, he requested a meeting with Zarath and her senior staff. He had discovered something important, he said. Something that would help them understand who was really behind the coordinated attacks. In the briefing room, Marcus activated the main display. It showed a massive space station hidden in an asteroid field at the galaxy's edge. I've been analyzing the attack patterns, he said. The coordination is too perfect for normal communication. Someone is using quantum entanglement networks to coordinate in real time across impossible distances. General Kexvor leaned forward. Where is this station? Grid coordinates 847993441, Marcus said. It's the central command nexus for the entire conspiracy. They're coordinating not just external attacks, but the internal betrayals as well. Admiral Mordan studied the display. How did you find this? By thinking like a human instead of a Valkyrian, Marcus said. You look for honor and logic in your enemies. I look for advantage and efficiency. It was brilliant. The station was real. Marcus had found it in old exploration records. It was also automated and abandoned, left over from a failed mining operation centuries ago. But the Valkyrian commanders didn't know that. We need to strike immediately, General Kexvor said, before they realize we've found them. Agreed, Admiral Mordan nodded. But this will require most of our available fleets. If we're wrong, we're not wrong, Marcus said with perfect confidence. This is the head of the snake. Cut it off and the coordinated attacks will stop. What he didn't tell them was that he had already sent the station's location to the hegemony, the Syndicate, and the Free Colonies. By the time the Imperial fleets arrived, they would find their enemies waiting for them. It would be the largest space battle in galactic history, and when it was over, the Empire's military would be broken forever. Zarath watched her husband present his plan with growing horror. He wasn't just ending the war between humans and Valkyrians. He was ending the Empire itself, and the worst part was that everyone in the room was thanking him for it. The assault on the Nexus station began at dawn, ship time. 300 Imperial vessels jumped into the asteroid field, expecting to find a secret base coordinating galactic rebellion. Instead, they found the largest enemy fleet ever assembled waiting for them. The hegemony had brought 200 ships. The Syndicate had contributed 150. The Free Colonies added another 100. For the first time in history, the Empire's enemies had united against them. Admiral Mordan stared at his tactical display in shock. It's impossible. How did they know we were coming? General Kexvor was already shouting orders. All ships, battle formation. Target the largest enemy vessels first. But Marcus wasn't with the Imperial fleet. 3 hours before the battle began, he had quietly left Destiny's Edge in a small shuttle. Zarath discovered his absence only when the fighting started. She found the shuttle's flight plan in the navigation computer. Marcus was heading directly toward the old mining station at the center of the asteroid field, the station that was supposed to be controlling the galactic conspiracy. He's going to get himself killed, Captain Veltar said when Zarath showed him the flight plan. No, she said grimly. He's going to do something much worse. Marcus piloted his shuttle through the battle zone like a ghost. Massive warships exchanged fire all around him, but none of them paid attention to one small civilian craft. He had studied their targeting protocols for months. He knew exactly how to appear harmless. The mining station loomed ahead of him, dark and abandoned, but it wouldn't stay that way for long. Marcus docked his shuttle and made his way inside. The station was old but functional. Most importantly, it still had working communication arrays and computer systems. He had discovered that fact months ago while researching historical mining operations in the Imperial archives. In the station's central control room, Marcus activated systems that hadn't been used in centuries. Emergency power came online. Computer cores began processing data. Communication arrays turned toward the battle raging outside. Then Marcus plugged in a device he had been building for months. It looked like a simple data storage unit, but it contained something much more dangerous. A complete map of every Imperial military installation, supply route, and defensive position in the galaxy. The information had come from his months of innocent questions. Guard rotations became security protocols. Maintenance schedules revealed logistics networks. Casual conversations with officers provided strategic intelligence. Marcus had been collecting puzzle pieces for half a year. Now he was showing everyone the complete picture. The data began transmitting to every ship in the battle zone, but it wasn't just tactical information. Marcus had included something else: instructions for the complete dismantling of Imperial power. He had studied how empires fell throughout galactic history. They always collapsed the same way, from within. Economic systems failed when supply lines were disrupted. Military command broke down when officers couldn't trust each other. Political control vanished when local governors decided they didn't need central authority. Marcus was broadcasting a manual for revolution. On the Imperial flagship Destiny's Edge, Zarath watched the battle with growing despair. Her people were fighting bravely, but they were outnumbered. Worse, they were fighting enemies who seemed to know exactly where to strike for maximum damage. "Princess," Communications Officer Taldor said urgently, "we're receiving massive data transmissions from the mining station. The enemy has turned it into a broadcast center." "What kind of data?" "Everything. Fleet positions, supply routes, defensive codes. They know everything about us." General Kexvor overheard and rushed to the communication station. "Cut the transmissions! Jam their signals." "We're trying, sir, but the signal is too strong, and it's being relayed by ships throughout the battle zone. Everyone is receiving the data." Zarath felt her world crumbling. Marcus hadn't just started a battle. He had created a galactic intelligence network that would make Imperial military power impossible to maintain. But he still wasn't finished. Deep in the mining station, Marcus activated the most important part of his plan. For months he had been studying not just Imperial military tactics, but Imperial psychology and culture. He understood how Valkyrian society worked, what held it together, and what could tear it apart. His final transmission wasn't military intelligence. It was something much more dangerous: the truth. Marcus broadcast the complete records of the Imperial War Council's discussions about the human conflict. Every debate about using biological weapons on civilian populations. Every decision to target refugee ships. Every order to execute prisoners. But more importantly, he broadcast the Council's discussions about other species and other wars. How they planned to pacify the hegemony worlds through forced sterilization. How they intended to turn syndicate populations into slave labor. How they saw every non-Valkyrian species as resources to be exploited. For 3,000 years, the Empire had maintained power through careful propaganda. They were bringing civilization to barbarian species. They were creating order from chaos. They were the guardians of galactic peace. Marcus showed the galaxy what the Empire really thought of them. The effect was immediate and devastating. On ships throughout the battle zone, non-Valkyrian crew members began receiving messages from home. Their families had heard the broadcasts. Their worlds were in revolt. "Sir," reported Communications Officer Taldor, his voice shaking, "we're getting reports from across the Empire. Rebellion on 47 worlds and counting. The Third Fleet has declared independence. 5 sector governors have announced they're forming their own confederations." General Kexvor stared at the reports. "This is impossible. You can't destroy an empire with a single broadcast." You can if the Empire was already cracking, Zareth said quietly. She finally understood what Marcus had been doing all along. He didn't destroy the Empire. He just revealed that it was already destroying itself. The battle around the mining station raged for 6 hours. When it ended, both sides had suffered terrible losses. But the real damage wasn't measured in destroyed ships. The Empire's ability to wage galactic war was broken forever. Their supply networks were compromised. Their intelligence was public knowledge. Their subject species were in open revolt. And somewhere in the wreckage of the old mining station, a single human had accomplished what 3,000 years of warfare could not: the end of the Valkyrian Empire. Marcus was found 12 hours later by a rescue team from one of the Free Colony ships. He was unconscious but alive, trapped in the station's emergency shelter when the station's reactor overloaded during the battle. When he woke up in the medical bay, the first person he saw was Zareth. "Hello, wife," he said weakly. "Hello, husband." She looked older, tired. "Do you know what you've done?" Marcus tried to sit up, winced, and lay back down. "I ended the war. You ended everything." "The Empire is fragmenting. There are rebellions on 100 worlds. The galaxy is in chaos." "Good," Marcus said simply. "Good?" Zareth stared at him. "Billions of people will die in the chaos. Billions of people were already dying under Imperial rule. At least now they have a choice about it." Marcus looked out the medical bay window at the stars. "The Empire killed my daughter. It destroyed my world. It would have enslaved every human in the galaxy. So yes, Princess, good." Zareth sat down in the chair beside his bed. "What happens now?" "Now you decide what kind of leader you want to be. The old Empire is dead, but something new can grow from what's left. Something better. And you? What will you do now that you've destroyed everything?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. For 3 years, all I wanted was revenge. Now I have it, and I don't know what comes next. Maybe," Zareth said softly, "you could try building something instead of destroying it." Outside the window, the stars wheeled silently through space, carrying the news of the Empire's fall to every corner of the galaxy. 1 year after the fall of the Empire, Zareth stood on the observation deck of her new flagship, watching human and Valkyrian ships working together to build a space station. The sight would have been impossible to imagine 2 years ago. The galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The great Valkyrian Empire had shattered into hundreds of independent worlds. Some had formed new confederations based on shared values rather than conquest. Others remained isolated, trying to rebuild their societies. A few had collapsed entirely into chaos. Zareth now ruled a small alliance of 12 worlds that had chosen to follow her after the Empire's fall. She called it the Free Confederation, and it was nothing like the old Empire. Instead of conquest and domination, it focused on trade, mutual defense, and cultural exchange. The changes hadn't been easy. Many of her people struggled to understand a government that served citizens instead of ruling them. Some Valkyrian military officers refused to work with former enemies. Others couldn't accept that their 3,000-year empire was truly gone. But slowly, carefully, Zareth was building something new. "The medical supplies from New Geneva have arrived," Captain Veltar reported. He had chosen to stay with Zareth when she formed the Confederation. "Dr. Chen says they should be enough to handle the plague outbreak on Carol 4. Dr. Chen was Marcus's cousin, one of many humans now working throughout the former empire. The end of the war had brought unexpected cooperation between species that had been enemies for years. "Good," Zareth said. "And the security situation?" "Stable. The pirate attacks have stopped since we started joint patrols with the hegemony forces. That was another change that would have been impossible under the old empire. The hegemony worlds, former enemies, were now partners in keeping trade routes safe. Not because anyone forced them to cooperate, but because cooperation benefited everyone." "Where is Admiral Chen?" Zareth asked. "In his workshop, as usual." Zareth found Marcus in the small room he had converted into a design studio. The walls were covered with blueprints and star charts. His desk held models of new ship designs and communication devices. "Working late again?" she asked. Marcus looked up from a complex diagram. "The refugee transport design is almost finished. These ships will be able to carry 10,000 people and establish basic infrastructure on any habitable world." After destroying the Empire, Marcus had thrown himself into building things instead. New ship designs that prioritized safety over weapons, communication networks that connected allies instead of coordinating attacks. technology that helped people rather than killing them. The Federation Council approved funding for 50 ships, Zareth said, sitting down across from him. 50 ships, 500,000 refugees. Marcus nodded. It's a good start. The Human Federation had emerged as one of the strongest new powers in the post-Empire galaxy. But unlike the old Empire, they used their strength to help rather than conquer. Human engineers rebuilt damaged worlds. Human doctors fought diseases that had been ignored under Imperial rule. Human teachers shared knowledge that had been restricted to the ruling class. There's something else, Zareth said. The Outer Rim Coalition wants to discuss a mutual defense treaty. Marcus set down his stylus. What do you think? It was a question he asked often now. During the Empire's fall, Marcus had made decisions alone. Now he seemed determined to never again hold that much power over so many lives. I think it's necessary, Zareth said. The reports from the Galactic Edge are getting worse. That was the new threat emerging from the chaos of the Empire's collapse. Something vast and hostile was moving in from the empty space beyond the galaxy's rim. Ships unlike anything in the known database. Technology that made Imperial weapons look primitive. The Coalition has good people, Marcus agreed, and we'll need all the allies we can get. He was different now than the cold weapon who had destroyed an empire. The anger that had driven him for so long was gone, replaced by something Zareth had never expected to see in him. Peace. Not the absence of conflict, but inner calm. The knowledge that he had done what he set out to do and could now choose what came next. Their marriage had changed too. What began as a political arrangement and became a deadly game had transformed into something neither of them had planned. Partnership. Not romance. Too much had happened between them for that, but genuine respect and shared purpose. The Coalition meeting is tomorrow, Zareth said. Will you come? If you want me there, I do. These people trust you, Marcus. You ended the Empire, but you also helped them build something better. They listen when you speak. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice. The galaxy is free now, but it's also dangerous. People are struggling to rebuild. Some worlds are worse off than they were under the Empire. Do you regret it? No, he said immediately. But I wonder if there might have been a better way. There wasn't, Zareth said firmly. The Empire would never have changed on its own. It would have kept growing, kept conquering, kept enslaving species until someone stopped it. You did what needed to be done. Maybe. But I also enjoyed it, and that scares me. Marcus looked out the window at the stars. For 3 years, all I wanted was revenge. When I finally got it, it felt good. Too good. This was why Zareth respected him now. A lesser man would have justified everything he did as necessary. Marcus understood the darkness in himself and worked every day to choose something better. You're not that person anymore, she said. How can you be sure? Because that person would have taken over after the Empire fell. You had the loyalty of the human fleet, the respect of the rebel factions, and the gratitude of 100 worlds. You could have become emperor yourself. Instead, Marcus had helped establish democratic governments, supported local leaders, and consistently refused positions of power. When people called him a hero, he reminded them that heroes can become tyrants if no one watches them carefully. The Coalition meeting, Zareth continued. They want to discuss unified command structures for the new threat. You know they'll offer you the position, Marcus nodded, and you know I'll turn it down. Will you? Even if it means the difference between victory and defeat. Especially then. Marcus turned back to his designs. I've seen what I become when I have unlimited power. I won't risk that again. The next day, representatives from 47 worlds gathered for the Coalition meeting. Humans, Valkyrians, hegemony citizens, syndicate delegates, and dozens of other species sat in the same room, planning their common defense 2 years ago. Most of these people had been trying to kill each other. Now they were arguing about supply logistics and communication protocols like old friends. The new threat from beyond the galaxy's edge was discussed in detail. Long-range scouts reported massive ships, energy signatures that defied known physics, and technology that seemed almost magical in its capabilities. We need unified command, insisted Admiral Torres of the Human Federation. Separate fleets can't coordinate against an enemy this advanced. Agreed, said General Vexcan of the Free Valkyrian worlds. But who commands? Which species leads this alliance? The room fell silent. This was the question everyone had been avoiding. Each species trusted the others, but ultimate authority was different from cooperation. Finally, Ambassador Krelthos of the Hegemony spoke up. There is only one person in this room who has proven he can coordinate galactic-scale military operations. Admiral Chen ended the last Great War. Perhaps he should lead us in the next one. Every eye turned to Marcus. He stood slowly and looked around the room at faces he had once considered enemies. "Thank you for the trust," he said quietly, "but I won't accept command. I've seen what I become when I hold that much power, and I won't risk it again." "Then who?" Admiral Torres asked. Marcus smiled. "We don't need one supreme commander. We need a council, representatives from each major fleet making decisions together. Shared authority, shared responsibility, shared accountability." It wasn't what anyone had expected. Military tradition across every species emphasized clear command hierarchy, but Marcus was suggesting something new: leadership without dominance. "It could work," General Vexcan said thoughtfully, "if we establish clear protocols for coordination." "It will work," Zareth said, "because it has to. The alternative is going back to the old ways of empire and conquest." The meeting ended with agreement to form the Galactic Defense Council. No single species would dominate. No one leader would hold ultimate power. It was messy, complicated, and completely unprecedented. It was also the best hope the galaxy had. That night, Marcus and Zareth stood together on the observation deck, watching the fleet assemble. Ships from dozens of worlds all flying in formation toward an uncertain future. "Do you think we can win?" Zareth asked. "I don't know," Marcus said honestly, "but I know we'll face whatever comes as equals, not as conquerors and slaves." "And if we lose?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Then we'll lose as free people who chose their own fate." The stars wheeled overhead, carrying their ships toward humanity's greatest test. The war that had ended an empire was over. The war to save the galaxy was about to begin.